What if you could influence someone before you even met them? Is that possible? They're not even in your presence. Yes, there is one way to do that, by creating a brand. Now, I don't care whether you own a company or you work for someone else. If you aren't consciously creating a brand, you are not going to move up. In a company, in your own company, with your clients, what is a brand? A brand is the power to influence somebody before you open your mouth. I want you to understand the power of a brand. Even if you don't own a business, you have a brand with your kids. Parents will come to me all the time and they'll say, hey, would you tell my kid to stop doing this or doing that? And I go, well, yeah, I'd be willing to, but why? Because he'll listen to you. Because he loves you. I said, well, really? I said, well, why doesn't he listen to you? Because your brand is you change your mind, or your brand is you don't hold him to a standard. Brand influences everyone. So you must become conscious of a brand. And your brand even influences you. You can change your own brand. If you want to change and get any new result, you want to lose weight, you want to make more money, you want to attract someone, you want to revitalize a relationship with more passion where it doesn't feel like it, you want to influence your kids, any new result requires a new action. New actions, though, can feel hard to do sometimes. But they only feel hard to do because you're not in the right state. See, if you think, I don't know, I always procrastinate, it never works, and that's your identity. Identity is another word for brand. You're going to procrastinate all the time. But if you develop a belief that says, no, I find the way, I always find the way, I kick ass, I take names, and you do that enough till you believe it, that's your brand in your mind, you will step up, you will follow through, you will not put it off. So if you want to get a new result, you need new action. Don't work on the action. That takes willpower. I have a lot of willpower. I bet you do too, or you wouldn't be in a place like this. However, there's a limit to willpower for anyone, but there's no limit when you're in state. It just flows. So how much of you we experience is based on your state. So what we want to learn is to put ourselves in those states. Put yourself in the right state, dieting's easy. Put yourself in the wrong state, you're wasting your time. Nothing's going to change. The number one way to change your state is to change what we call your physiology. Physiology is a big word for how you use your physical body, the way you move, the way you breathe, the tone of your voice, the tempo. All of those things change your biochemistry like that. And when you do it, it'll change your state. So if a person's in this state, okay, yeah, all right. You know it's not gonna happen. If they're in this state saying, move, you know it's happening. That change in the shoulders, that change in the breath, that change in movement, that change in the voice, changes everything that fast. When you change the body radically, not a little change, a radical change, your whole state changes, your behavior will change, and your results will change. The other way you can change state in an instant is by changing your focus. Focus equals feeling. Focus equals feeling. Whatever you focus on, you're going to feel, even if it's not true. So guess what? It doesn't matter what's true. The minute you focus on something, that's what's true for you. It's like focus equals reality for the individual, even though it's not reality in actuality. So learning to control our focus is the second skill that will change your whole life. If you want to feel the way you want to feel, you got to learn what to focus on. If you want to feel the way you feel, you got to use your body in a certain way. It is that simple. And how fast does it work when you really do it? How fast? In a heartbeat. But you got to train yourself to do it. And after a while, it becomes second nature. You don't have to work at it. It's just who you are. It's not phony. It's not fake. It's not effortful. But you got to train it like a muscle. So if we change those two things, we can change our results in any area of our life. But if you don't change those and you're in the wrong state, you can use all the effort in the world. It won't come across. It won't work. One of the earliest athletes I worked with was a tennis star. And his name was Andre Agassi. He had been number one in the world. And then he dropped to, I think it was number 24 or 25, a horrific drop. He couldn't do anything right. And then he sprained his wrist, and his father was his coach, and so they had a dynamic between him and his father. And years later, when he wrote his biography, he said he was actually thinking of quitting tennis back then. So I asked him questions, and he started telling me his problem. My problem is my wrist, and I can't do this, and I did this, and I trained that, and my father this, all these stories. Because by the way, when you're in a lousy state, guess how you stay there? You come up with all stories about why you're there. She did this, he did that, I didn't do that, this didn't work out. That's what we are, we're storytellers. If you tell the right story, you'll be empowered. Tell the wrong story, you're disempowered. So I said, okay, I hear all that. I hear you're frustrated. I hear nothing's working. So let me ask you a question. I said, have you ever hit a tennis ball perfectly? Close your eyes and step into that moment. You hit the tennis ball perfectly, and then do it again and again in your mind. And all of a sudden, gradually, his eyes are closing, got this smile that becomes a big smile. I said, okay, open your eyes. I said, so here's my question. How'd that feel? Well, it felt great, of course. I said, here's my question. Were you ever thinking about your wrist? He said, no. I said, then how did you ever imagine that focusing on your wrist would ever get you back to that performance? You have this in your body. You need to go into that state. And the state is triggered by what you do with your body, physiology, and focus. And I said, I'm going to show you. I had videos ready. And I said, watch this. And the video comes on, and it's Andre when he won at Wimbledon, when he was number one. And here's what you notice. He walks out on the tennis court like this. He goes, like a tiger. And he takes the ball and he goes, boom, boom. And while he watched the video, I'm watching him, he starts smiling from ear to ear. I said, do you remember that moment? He goes, oh yeah. I said, first of all, notice how you walked. You didn't walk, you were like prowling, right? And then you bounced the ball like this. I said, but now, when you were looking at him, there was an intensity in your eyes. Do you remember what you were focusing on? He goes, I remember the moment like it was yesterday. I was looking at him and I was thinking, why did you even show up? So he had total certainty. But now, I'm not certain. So here's the point. He had the skill, but he wasn't using it because he was in the wrong state. In the wrong state, you come up with every reason, every excuse, every problem, and then it keeps you there. So all we have to do is discover how you use your body when you're most certain. Because think about it, that's a leadership quality, isn't it? Certainty. Somebody's like, I don't know, what do you think? No, somebody that knows, that feels it. That's what people are looking for, that's what makes somebody a leader. But you can be a leader in your own life. But we got to change the pattern of your physiology. If I want to build my bicep, how do I do it? You pick up a weight and you do curls. Now, if I do a weight where I can do 100 curls, what's going to happen to my bicep? Nothing. I'm going to keep it. If I don't use it, though, I will lose it. But if I take a weight that's super difficult and I can barely do 9 of these, and I push myself, and you get to 10 and 11, and those last 2 that you never would have done give you 90% of the growth in the muscle. It's the same thing in emotional muscles. Faith unused dwindles. Courage unengaged shrinks. Passion unexpressed becomes weaker. So if you want it, you got to use it. And the way you use it is physiology and focus. And that's what the secret to all this is. But we got to go beyond just understanding this to doing it. And when you do, everything changes. Every feeling you've ever wanted to feel, proud, strong, in love, excited, passionate, confident, you felt it sometime in your life. And if you've ever felt it, you can feel it again if you do what you did then in the same pattern. The same pattern of focus and physiology will give you that feeling now, not 10 years from now when you achieve that ultimate goal. Achieve the goal too, but why not have a good time along the way by becoming the master of your state? If you master your state, you master your life.